Good morning. My name is Wael Mukhtar. I'm the Director of School of Engineering at Grand Valley. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome you to the Co-op Employer Forum. So I would say for over 20 years now, we have been holding this meeting every year, get to work with our partners in industry, talk together about how can we make our education for our students more beneficial, more close to what the industry needs. So this discussion usually starts with, here is what's happening on an industry. And then here is what we do in teaching and how we can create the bridge between them. Partner with industry is maybe the core part in Grand Valley State University. School of Engineering was founded by our partners in industry. And this partnership continued to keep this program alive. I have to say that over the last year with the COVID, this partnership shows how strong it is. Continue co-op over this challenge, working closely with our supporter from industry was something phenomenal. And I cannot say how much we appreciate and thank your contribution to this very important part of our future engineering education. So without much talk from my side, you have a very interesting forum this year. We have a nice mix between industry, academia, and of course, this is a forum where we have panelists to talk with you and then hear from you. So if we go to the next slide, I'll introduce the key presenter or coordinator of the event, Diane, which is, as you all know, she is the person in charge of the co-op. She's the chair of assessment, accreditation, and co-op, many years industry experience, many years of academic experience. I'm pretty sure you know her maybe more than me because she works very close with industry. So Diane will be coordinating the discussion. Chris is the other very important helper for us. So Diane create the contact, create the academic side of the co-op and employer. Chris gets our student to be ready for you. So talk to you, talk to us and industry, student, faculty, get everybody to make this happen, the co-op and others. So few more words and then I'll get Diane to take over. I'll quickly introduce the panelists for today. If we go to the next slide, please. So we have three experts from industry, 3 experts from academia, and 1 expert from industry. So I have Mary from University of Louisville, and I have Steve from NN Autocam, long-term partner with us. I have Dean Plotkowski, who is the founding dean of the School of Engineering. He maybe can tell you more than me, but he started this school with maybe 8 faculty or less. The college now is over 70 or 80 faculty and staff. Students are now crossing 2,000. So he will tell you a lot about industry and academia. And Casey is assistant dean for the college, a lot of industry experience and interaction. She is the connection between us and industry. So very interesting panelists. We're looking forward to hear from them. With that, enjoy the forum, and I'll give it back to Diane.
Thank you, Dr. Mokhtar, for the warm welcome and also for your leadership during this past year. As Dr. Mokhtar indicated, I'm the assessment and accreditation leader for the School of Engineering, and I also run the co-op program. That being said, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to all the employers out there who maintain the commitment to the co-op program over the past year. With your assistance, we've been able to maintain 100% of the employment, and this is an incredible achievement. We're very proud of this achievement, and we're glad to thank all of you who were involved in this. With that being said, I'd like to open the session, which will include university, industry, and national level perspectives to provide future information through future collaboration. The session will end with an open Q&A that is facilitated through the online chat. At this time, I'd like to pass the floor over to Assistant Dean Thelenwood, who will be co-presenting with Dean Plotkowski. Casey?
Thank you, Diane. So Paul and I will be co-presenting, as Diane mentioned, and so Paul, jump in here anywhere where you would like. So this presentation is going to focus on maximizing the benefits of an industry-university collaboration. And as Dr. Mokhtar mentioned, PCEC programs were developed at the request of and in close coordination with our industry partners. And the goal that we have is to bolster the professional workforce in West Michigan. Over the past 35 plus years, we've shifted the way that we engage with industry in order to meet changes in demand. And we currently have over 300 industry partners. And I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the 5 primary ways that we engage with industry and community, which are through the K-12 pipeline, experiential education, applied research and development, talent recruitment, and continuous learning. Next slide, please. Thank you. So first of all, K-12 pipeline. PCEC has really dedicated a lot of effort over the years in developing a strong talent pipeline in West Michigan. And West Michigan struggles in building that strong STEM pipeline, just like the rest of the US does. So we've done this by being deeply rooted in the local community. We work closely with K-12 schools and our community partners to provide innovative methods to student engagement, talent development, and problem solving. And our employees, I'm hoping your slide looks a little clearer than mine, but there's about 13,000 K-12 students reached in the course of a year through our employees in the Padnos College of Engineering and Computing, as well as our students, alumni, and volunteers who help us to have that level of impact. We do have a dedicated STEM outreach staff member. We have STEM content heavy K-12 programming that we offer, and we focus on building strong partnerships over time so that we're remaining a consistent part of students' experience and that they become familiar with career options in STEM. We also do a lot of sharing of information and resources, and we try to be helpful to our partners by meeting them where they are at. Some of the things we offer are hands-on K-12 workshops, summer camps that expose our K-12 students to STEM, and advising for pre-college students. And one of the things Paul will cover later on is our new Innovation Development Center, which really provides a unique space and opportunity for us to host some of these things in a new way and engage with industry. As you can see, there are lots of ways for industry to partner with us, volunteering to be parts of these camps and events, providing content expertise, sponsoring summer camps or events, hosting tables, and then providing job shadowing opportunities for K-12 students is so important in helping them understand what their career pathways are. So experiential education, this is really at the heart of what we do in the Padnos College. It's heavily ingrained into all of our academic programming. All PCEC students complete a co-op or internship placement in a high impact learning environment. They also have lab experiences and conduct industry sponsored projects throughout the course of their academic career. We make this possible by having state-of-the-art facilities that students have access to 24/7. They can get into the buildings and work on projects on their own schedules and timelines. And we provide a variety of tools for them, such as machine tools, 3D printers, and advanced instrumentation. So really the co-op model, which is why you are all here today, distinguishes the engineering program at GVSU from other programs across the country and even throughout the world. It is one of only a dozen, I think fewer than a dozen in the nation, and there are only a small number more internationally. So this is possible because of you all in West Michigan. We have a large and diverse cadre of employers that partner with us to provide these high quality experiences for our students. And there are a lot of benefits to industry as well. So if you work with us through co-op, you're gaining access to student and faculty expertise to solve problems. You're gaining brand exposure and awareness for your companies. You have the ability to solve some industry problems at low cost. And then also through co-op and internship placements, you're able to kind of determine whether a student is going to be a good fit for a career hire before you go ahead and hire that person on long-term. And then you're hiring graduates who already have significant experience working with industry when they graduate from GVSU. So we really appreciate your involvement with us through the co-op, internship, and then industry-sponsored courses and capstone projects. Applied research and development is also at the heart of how we work with industry in the Padnos College. We have 5 applied R&D centers, which help industry to partner with faculty experts and students to solve industry problems. So we provide a variety of services, including application development, incubator spaces, rapid prototyping, and more. You can see the opportunities for industry list here. Just briefly, the centers that we have, the Applied Computing Institute connects faculty and students with industry to solve problems focused in computer sciences and related disciplines. The Applied Medical Device Institute fills an important need in the medical device community by providing access to researchers, faculty experts, and medical professionals, as well as providing technical service, intellectual property support, business review, and mentoring around medical device design. The Design, Optimization, Evaluation, and Redesign, lovingly called the Doer Center, is the way that we match industry partners with a team of engineering faculty and students to solve industry problems. Also, the DT Electromagnetic Compatibility Center is the only university-based facility in the world that provides EMC pre-compliance development and testing support for industry. And then last but not least, Power Mobility Lab is a collaboration with the College of Health Professions at Grand Valley, and it provides solutions to underserved physically challenged children, such as those who are wheelchair bound, to help develop custom devices and prepare them to be able to drive those devices.
Casey, before you move to the next slide, just a couple observations. While each of these R&D centers has a center of focus, we have seen tremendous interest from a variety of industries in connecting with each. So, for example, the Applied Medical Device Institute, AMDI, they really help with product design, development, and commercialization. The focus has been the medical device industry, but companies from across the spectrum that need those kinds of services have come to them to support them as well. And it's been a tremendous success. And the same thing is true of the other areas.
Thanks for jumping in there, Paul. That's absolutely true. So around talent recruitment, what we hear a lot from industry partners is that we need more talent in West Michigan and that we can't graduate students fast enough to help support the industry needs. So we do focus on building that talent pipeline in West Michigan in a myriad of ways. So the K-12 outreach, which I mentioned previously, we have a new initiative at Grand Valley that we're very excited about. The HBCU HSI Pipeline Consortium, which stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities and Hispanic Serving Institutions Pipeline Consortium, in which we are partnering with those schools to create additional educational opportunities for students and to diversify the talent pipeline here in West Michigan. We have this experiential education component that I mentioned previously. We also offer robust research opportunities and dedication to student success, and that helps us to attract really talented, qualified people to work at GVSU and helps us to improve the expertise within the West Michigan region. We also, well, because of our experiential education model, our graduates also have strong connections that are built with local industry. So we typically have most of our graduates actually remain in West Michigan, oftentimes with the employers that they conducted their co-op or internship placements with. And as you can see, there's 75% of our graduates are offered career hires by their co-op or internship employers upon completion. And our students have had a really strong success rate, and we've been able to keep about 70% of them in West Michigan, even though only 30 to 40% are actually from West Michigan. So this is another way that we're trying to bring expertise and talent into the region.
And again, Casey, if I could jump in, the new HBCU HSI pipeline is an effort where we're partnering with institutions to capitalize on their strengths and ours. It's a second pipeline of talent to complement our existing programming. And most of these students are coming in late in their undergraduate or for their master's degree. And we really want to provide them with an immersive experience on our industry side as well. So our IGF, or industry sponsored graduate fellow program, which is basically parallel co-op for master students, where they work and go to school in parallel rather than alternating, is an important part of that. If you would like to discuss more connecting with this new pipeline of students, who of course are very diverse, and we would like to retain in West Michigan, which means engaging with our corporate partners, and the vast majority are low income. So this is also how they're going to be able to afford their graduate studies. Please reach out to me and we'll pick up the conversation.
Yes, thanks, Paul. That's great. We would love to talk to you about partnerships around this consortium, so please do reach out. And then I guess the fifth way that we often engage with industry is through continuous learning. And what this really comes down to is being flexible to our industry partners and also our student populations as changes in demand occur over time, so that we are building coursework that is flexible to meet changing industry needs and changing student interests. We are currently intentionally modifying and expanding course offerings to be more accommodating of adult learners, as well as to include some components of professional skill development and the need for upskilling that occurs for employees throughout the course of their career. So we are working on reinventing education through providing online and hybrid course offerings, such as you'll see we have 8 graduate level badges in computing now. We're also working on creating on-ramps into the computing careers for professionals who may have started in a different industry and they're looking to enter the STEM fields and go into computing. We're trying to create courses that are more flexible for non-traditional students who are already working full-time, so that they have more options for continuing their education. And we're also trying to balance the student demand for very career-specific skill set training in specific software and tools and devices, with the need for preparing professionals that are able to be successful long-term by having that broad knowledge base and areas of expertise that are needed to adapt to whichever new software tools, et cetera, come onto the market. And then after this slide, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. He's going to talk a little bit about the Innovation Design Center. But I did want to mention here, one of the unique ways that we partner with industry at the IDC, Fisher Unitech is one of the companies which co-locates with us in the IDC. And our students benefit from this because they receive convenient access to industry expertise right within the buildings. And then the company also benefits because they can easily collaborate with faculty, share ideas. Our students have access to seats and courses free of charge, and the ability to use some of the equipment that Fisher Unitech brings into the building and provides for students. And it really creates a win-win situation in which they have access to expertise and space and students, and our folks have access to learn more about what they're doing and participate in their SolidWorks courses, et cetera. And with that, I will turn it over to Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. So for those of you who have not had a chance to visit it yet, our newest facility designed specifically to support the kind of engagement we're talking about is the Innovation and Design Center. We basically, for the locals, we took over the facility that used to be Ferris Coffee and Nut down on our downtown campus, right next to the YMCA, to give you a little geographic landmark. And we converted the facility to support our project-based learning and really leverage what we do and the synergies between enhancing the K-12 pipeline, our students' preparation, and supporting local industry. So if you could go to the next slide. A large portion of it is designed to support industry-based projects and project-based learning, which for us overlap extensively. A lot of our project-based learning, not just the capstones, but throughout the courses, comes from our industry partners as well. The probably most important part, to be honest with you, is what we call the flexible project labs. We had the design bays in the Keller Engineering Labs, which were phenomenally successful, but didn't come close to meeting the need for space and capacity. So we have about 5 times as much space more in this building than we did in Keller. The basic story here is, if you think about your home, you cannot park in your garage and work on your car in there at the same time. Well, the same thing is true in a teaching environment. We cannot teach traditional lab courses and do design and build projects in the same spaces. So these are that space that gets assigned based upon the needs of each course and the projects throughout the course of the year. It's highly flexible and has all of the utilities you could imagine, all the different kinds of power and water and compressed air and all of that sort of thing. The next element, the team rooms, just as you work in teams, we have our students working in teams with each other and with our corporate partners. So we have several team rooms that are designed to do that, both on-site and to facilitate multi-site. The rapid prototyping lab and the fabrication labs are to support that type of project-based work, so that the students can build right on site the elements and subsystems that they need for their projects. And that ranges from 3D printing and laser cutting and plasma cutting to, believe it or not, industrial sewing machines, because we do a lot of work where we're trying to fit for children and that sort of thing. Double E electrical prototyping equipment as well. The digital design studios, bottom center photo there, they convert just by having the computers pop up out of the tables from a classroom environment to a computer lab. And most importantly, when you want to get the student's attention back, pop back down into the table so that you can discuss a problem, you can simulate it, and then you can return to the classroom. And then several free-form collaboration spaces like you see in the bottom right to allow student groups comfortable environments for gathering and discussing their project work, comfortable seating, lots of whiteboard space, lots of computer connectivity in a more relaxed environment. Next slide, please. The pictures that you see here are the K-12 and community engagement space. On the top, about a third of this space is open space, high bay environment, so that we can set up, tear down, and convert for whatever purpose we need. What you see there is the guts of a first robotics competition field. The space is large enough to put a full field in. And For example, while it's set up for that in the picture, during the summertime, this is where we would build our complete airplane factory for the STEPS camp, where the students are building their own remote control airplanes. On the bottom right is a space that's still flexible. We use whiteboards instead of walls to be able to size as we need, so that we can do flexible meeting and teaching kinds of environments. And during COVID, this was one of our saving graces, being able to have a very large space like that with the tables really spread out to be able to teach face-to-face when much of the country and the university had to do much more virtually. So you can see there some of the things that we use it for. Interestingly enough, also in the building is the art preparation facility for the university. We have a substantial art collection, but almost all of it is on display in our academic buildings. So when a new building is going to open, for example, they will prepare 200 or 300 or 400 pieces so that the week before the building opens, after the fire marshal signs off, they can charge in and install all of that art. Well, that doesn't happen without a space to do it. And it's a very closely climate controlled space for when we are storing things for a while. Next, if you would. And with that the idea is to give you a sense of that space. We're very proud of it, but I would point out that one of our speakers today, Mary's going to talk about the other universities you can connect with, of course, outside our area. But many of them have designed, added, or renovated facilities to be able to do more active and project-based learning. And we encourage you to connect with them as well. With that, I'll hand it over to Steve Heethuis from NN. They are one of our longest standing corporate partners in a whole bunch of ways that he'll describe. And I think you'll see they're a great example of capitalizing on the opportunities to be able to leverage the resources we bring to the table. Steve, off to you.
Thank you, Dean Plotkowski. I appreciate it. I guess I'd like to start off by first acknowledging that this is a partnership, but maybe more significantly, it's a relationship that has grown and developed. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize where it started. Our founding leader had very close ties with the university and the belief and development for individuals to grow their skill set, and alongside of that, grow the opportunities within what it now is known as NN Mobile Solutions, but at the time was Autocam Corporation. From that standpoint, I'd also like to share my appreciation for the School of GVSU Engineering. Dean Plotkowski, Professor Mokhtar, Professor LaFreniere are staunch supporters of the opportunity for us to engage, and it's highly appreciated. And would be remiss to not mention Chris and the Career Center and all the support that we receive from him when we just flat out need help finding students. So with that standpoint, why don't you go ahead and move to the next slide, and I'll introduce a little bit about the NN Mobile Solutions Company. As I mentioned before, the location here in Kentwood was formerly known as Autocam Corporation. In 2014, we were bought by NN Incorporated and has since gone through a couple revisions, but we now exist as NN Mobile Solutions here in Michigan. And we also have NN Power Solutions throughout the North American market and South Asian market as well. We are a leading diversified industrial supplier, primarily around precision metal and plastic components and assembly. Our value add opportunity is design engineering for our customers and a manufacturing capability, material science expertise, and high precision components throughout a variety of markets. We are all over the globe. We're currently headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we employ more than 3,300 employees across all of our locations. Go ahead, next slide. So Warren Veltman, is our current president and chief executive officer. And that's a significant thing to note, as Warren used to be the CFO of Autocam Corporation, and in September of 2019 took over as president and CEO of NN. So the culture and the values that we have held dearly here in Kentwood and across the globe as Autocam have extended now to the entire entity of NN. And you can see our mission is to provide high quality product and service throughout the world that continuously exceeds our customer expectations while providing enhanced value for our stakeholders. And of course, the vision to be a leading manufacturer of high precision components. What I like to say is that those are simply words on a wall unless we can come through with our behaviors and actions. Go ahead to the next slide. As I mentioned before, formerly known as Autocam, I'd be remiss if I didn't share that the company is 31 years old, 32 years old this year. And the reason that's significant is the founding group of employees really were in their 20s and 30s. And so as I share this overview of our organization, you have to understand that the relationship recognized the need to develop talent as the leadership team of the former Autocam Corporation, now NN Mobile Solutions, started to move towards the retirement age. And so while we are a global publicly traded organization, we have revenues that we anticipate in 2025 of 600 million. Our belief is that growing and developing our talent, both locally and globally, is the recipe for success. Our innovative manufacturing technologies, our continuous improvement efforts, and our focus on teams all get developed from the concept that the culture in the organization has to be right in order to meet the demands of our customers in market. Next slide, please. This is just a showcase of some of the elements that we participate in. So I like to say in the automotive sector, if it steers, stops, starts, or shifts, we probably have our fingerprints on those components. Fuel delivery being a major component for that. And that's primarily what we do here in Kentwood. However, across our NN platform, you'll see our products likely on the side of your house through the smart meter technology that has been introduced throughout North America. And then we have deep relationships in aerospace defense, and we continue to grow that business through the last couple of years of development. Next slide. Okay, so what do we do here? Our primary business here in Kentwood is taking bar stock and using existing technologies and new technologies to refine, shave, grind, drill, and craft the parts below. It's valuable to understand that while we talk about machining in a broad spectrum, whether it's milling or turning, our primary skill set here in Kentwood happens to be turning. But that doesn't prevent us from going deeper into other segments. And I think that this culture of development and helping our people grow has helped us recently secure business that would be outside of our typical skill set, where we're doing micro milling applications to 5-micron depths on surface finish and channel widths of 400 microns consistently on parts the size of your fingertip. Go ahead, next slide. All right, so our culture. Our culture, as you look on the left, it's similar to anything you'd see with a Toyota production system. It starts with a lean house, but it's understanding the foundation is around our people, making sure that they're trained, and we provide an environment for teamwork. Once you build from that standpoint, you can see the elements of the production system come into play. But really what we work to do is assess how we're performing. We make sure that our culture, customer, and cost is visible throughout the entity. We measure that across our performance standards, and then we continue to refine and build through our area improvement teams. Making this visual allows us to be successful and keeps our employees cued into how we are doing and where we can continue to grow and develop. Next slide. Okay, so the partnership. And as I mentioned before, maybe it's better defined as relationship. I think it's significant to note that because of the developed relationship with GVSU, we have been able to find each other sitting at tables alongside, working on similar projects and focus. An example would be the K-12 pipeline, where we're a part of FIRST Robotics throughout West Michigan. We assist and develop and design our own manufacturing camps, as well as support other camps throughout the region. And then we have school partnerships where our team members sit alongside the GVSU team members on boards and advisory panels across West Michigan. We then move to experiential education, and this really is, the foundation of what we do with GVSU. As Casey mentioned earlier, this program is rich and it invites success, but it's also not available across the country. And it's something that we're grappling with. We have locations throughout our North American market that we would love to have this program duplicated. And while we are all highly aware of the talent needs in West Michigan, we are also keenly paying attention to opportunities for our students to travel into the regions of need and demand as well. We also pay attention, or the relationship has allowed us to leverage the applied R&D side of GVSU. The talent recruitment we'll speak to last, and then the process of continuous learning. Michael, if you go to the K-12 pipeline slide, I'd appreciate it. So in our K-12 pipeline, as I mentioned before, we're not only a supporter of the FIRST Robotics programs throughout West Michigan, but we partner with the high schools to help them, whether it's guide, foster, or develop students in the manufacturing sector, or if it's as simple as providing a tour. Here we have one of our technicians, Michael Boss, taking a group of students from Kelloggsville Public High School, and he's showing them a component in our micro milling room that I referenced. The technical depth and skill there is unique and unmatched throughout the world, but exposing these students early on to understand that this is available right here in West Michigan is vital to our West Michigan manufacturing talent. I mentioned the manufacturing camps. MI Career Quest is an event that occurs once a year. It is a unique event in West Michigan that provides up to 10,000 students the opportunity to engage in a variety of industries. Obviously, we focus on the advanced manufacturing sector, but it's another way that the GVSU school and our alignment of talent development sit next to each other and support each other. Similarly to Manufacturing Day, we're one of the largest regions in all of the US to support Manufacturing Day activities. And so these things are elements that lead us to success as we develop our talent pipeline. I mentioned already, we sit on advisory boards, provide mentorship, our guest speakers, and resume and interview prep. And again, these are all things that we've been invited to because of the relationships that we started to extend into the community, and we feel are vital to our long-term success. Go ahead, next slide. So I'm going to skip to the applied R&D. I'll come back to the experiential education, talent recruitment in a moment. And I think this was really a blessing of the relationship. So we had the opportunity to participate in an industry-sponsored graduate fellowship. We had Tanveer join our team in 2016. And what I think is significant is to recognize that we knew we had projects that we didn't have time to get to, and we needed somebody that could do the research and application for us to help build that alignment. And so the benefit of the industry-sponsored graduate fellowship was that we could dedicate someone to the research and design and recommendation to help us guide on a process that's relevant for our success. And what we targeted happened to be the emerging technology of scanning and light systems to be able to identify defects within high volume components. And so on the left there, you can just see an analysis that was provided by Tanveer. And in the way that we conduct our co-op programs, we make sure that our interns and our co-op students present the summary of their findings at the end to our executive leadership team, providing either completion status or recommendations to make sure that we follow through and finish the projects. We're also looking at the same model for the HBCU relationship that Casey mentioned. We're excited about that talent pipeline, not only for the skill set, but also because the fact that these students are looking to come to West Michigan and participate in STEM-focused careers. And we're all aware in talent development, the need to find individuals willing to come into West Michigan and step into these high demand, high expertise fields. On the right, you see an image of a face covering. It wasn't deemed to be a respirator quality. We could pursue that, but this is something that we partnered with Occupational Health and Safety to have fit and breathability testing for a prototype face mask that we were working on internally. This was right in the middle of the pandemic. As soon as we started to realize the long stages of this, the COVID pandemic, we got to work on trying to provide solutions. What was fascinating about this is not only was it the OC Health relationship where we do design and fit testing, it was the material recommendations. And then we had actually partnered with a student, a former GVSU mechanical engineering and PDM, I'm sorry, it was a PDM student, to help do the design. Is that individual already had the gasket developed. And so there was another partnership built really through the co-op program that enhanced the speed of development for this process. We did actually turn and sell that into the life sciences division for NN, and last summer we actually sold that off. But the behind the scenes energy was supported through OC Health at GVSU. Next slide. And then the continuous learning. So we leverage the school as many ways as possible, and whether it comes to the recruitment and retention side, we offer our students an opportunity to have tuition reimbursed up to $5,250 a year. And that includes the graduate side. So we've had individuals take their master's in business administration through GVSU. And then we also participate in the various activities such as the Right Place Manufacturing Leadership Summit, which is coming again back to the Eberhard Center here in October. This conference, not only the morning session here, but the opportunity to have our leaders come and see the other projects that engineers are crafting and developing for other companies. And then the Van Andel Global Trade Center, as we continue to be aware of the shifting dynamic of global trade. And then we've even had one of our former vice presidents of sales complete the commencement speech. I think it was in 2014. Paul, is that accurate? There we go. I got the head nod. All right. And maybe the meat and potatoes. If you go to the next slide, please, Michael. So when we think of the co-op program and experiential education, I think the biggest thing for our benefit is that the students at GVSU are learning the technical, the academic, but when we get them here as a co-op student, or even prior to that, what we call a summer machining internship, what we can do is provide the context for them to apply their academic instruction. And I think the significance for us is that our intentional focus is that they start out on the machines next to our machinists and technicians that they'll eventually support as they grow through their co-op relationship. That segment of time, we generally target 8 to 12 weeks of machining experience, lays the foundation for the success of the co-op. It's important for them not only to understand what our technology is capable of, the processes that they'll be designing to, but also the respect and the relationship with our technical team that's on the floor. We believe that a great engineer is not sitting at the desk, but close to the process and responsible to the customer throughout their entire product development. And so they are responsible for not only product, process, but also quality and ownership of their particular part. And the thing that we've also done is we've been able to expand GVSU's model into our computer science and our IT structure. This year, we hosted 2 individuals that have been writing software code for us internally, and they have been a huge asset as we have launched not only new programs here in Kentwood, but also the ability to support our expanding organization across North America and the world. And on the talent recruitment side, you got to have a little fun, right? And knowing our organization is, fuel delivery and automotive focused, our team had the vision of joining the SAE Formula One as a sponsorship. We're actually hosting the next group of students here. I think we're targeting right around Labor Day to have them take a tour through the facility, but we've been privileged enough to have a car out here and have it driven around the property. I mentioned Chris Babbitt's support through the Career Center, but the opportunity to participate in speed interviews or co-op presentations and receive student referrals when we have students that are looking for a placement that haven't been able to find a spot. We are grateful to receive those resumes as well. I touched earlier on the HBCU support, but it's a important activity for us regionally to be able to not only welcome students with diverse background and population, but to be welcoming to students that are interested in coming into West Michigan and supporting that talent pipeline. And I have to point out our scholarship program. We've partnered with the university since 2012 to offer a scholarship. And it's been a fantastic pipeline, and honestly, it helps our executive team realize the potential of the student engineer that's coming out of the GVSU program as they do the interviews and we select the student for their scholarship. Next slide. Just going to give you a brief way that we evaluate the 3 co-op experiences. So on the left, you can see that we have an SAS Torno screw machine. It's an old piece of equipment, but it runs like a top and it provides high volume, precise machining for us. And that's the focus of their first co-op, is making sure that they're familiar with our equipment, whether it's 70 from the 70s or whether it's a cutting edge piece of equipment that we just brought in last summer. And then we focus more on the statistical analysis in the second co-op. And then the third is really around the design and or problem solving activity. But then you can see on the bottom here, we want our students to have a variety of experiences. We don't expect them to complete all of these things by the time that they're done with their 3 co-ops, but we want to see a width of knowledge and exposure so that they can start to understand where they enjoy the effort and work, so that they can have input when we come to making an offer as to what type of technology they want to focus on and the teams that they've been working with. Next slide. This is a piece of the technology that's on the floor. And again, it's just emphasizing the need for our students to be familiar with our manufacturing processes. And I want to highlight here, it's fun to tell the story. There's 105 of these things in the world, and there's only 3 in North America, and 2 of them sit on our floor. And so when students when they start to conceptualize how significant the technology is that you bring to the table and how it's accessible to them to learn and develop on it, it bridges a gap between kind of that academic activity and really the hands-on component. Next slide. This is an example of a second rotation level skill set, right? So we had a co-op student build and design this for machine runoff, working with the builders to make sure that not only was it doing what we anticipated, but it was reliable and repeatable. The gauge, the correlation, and making sure that we were seeing the values that we want in that process. And then making sure that our internal team understood what this tool was for, right? Making sure that the secondary machinists and the individuals servicing that turnstile dimensional machine were up to speed with the expectation of performance and how to operate the equipment. Next slide. And so this was a product launch opportunity that our student had an opportunity to go through. And I highlight this because not only is it a technically demanding component, there are several components, but it was also a leading business opportunity for us. These were the first handful of parts for our customer in this particular application. It was a new segment of business. We knew it had significant potential, and we didn't hold back on putting one of our co-op students right in the midst of that development. They were mentored by senior engineers. This was a long-term strategy opportunity. And so we make sure that the student experience is highly significant and it's strategic to our ongoing success. We want the student to know that they bear responsibility for our organization as well as our engineers that are part of that process. All right, just a couple more slides here. Actually, I shared this with students when I present for co-op presentations. And it's a question that I asked a couple of our co-ops after they completed the rotation. And what do you know, now what you know, what do you wish you knew before? And I'll just highlight that Autocam, the processes are very complex. It takes a lot of skill and experience of employees to accomplish the advanced manufacturing processes that we do. Very few companies compete with Autocam because of our competency and precision manufacturing capabilities. And that's the reason I share that with this group is this is a student that's 10 months away from graduating, showing an appreciation for the complexity of what occurs here, but also I think appreciation for their academic foundation that they had to be able to realize how challenging the market is for what we're doing. And secondly, the next slide here, what have you liked? What have you loathed? I like using that word. And they highlight the people and the fun, and they acknowledge that as an engineer, some tasks can get repetitive, but it's a necessary and critical process to make sure that our manufacturing teams are successful. So I'd like to wrap it up, and I'd just like to say thank you to the university. We continue to explore our relationship and how we can deepen that going forward. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. We certainly appreciate everything that you've done, and I've seen everything your students have done, which is really wonderful. Great challenging experiences for all of them. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our final guest speaker, Ms. Mary Andrade. Ms. Andrade is the Career Center Director at the University of Louisville. She's also the current American Society of Engineering Education Cooperative and Experiential Education Division Chair. Before I pass the floor to Mary, I'd like to mention that the Padnos College has been extremely supportive of faculty and staff involvement in the ASW organization, particularly the Experiential and Co-op Education Division, as it is the hallmark of our engineering program. That being said, faculty and staff have had many leadership positions through the years. Over Dean Plotkowski's 30-year career, he has held multiple positions. Interim Provost Chris Pluff and former Assistant Director of the Career Center, Tom Denman, have also had numerous board positions. These gentlemen paved the path for the mandatory co-op program and work with their ASWE colleagues in order to do so. In the past couple of years, I carried the work forward in a program chair role, bringing in numerous guests. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the floor over to Mary. Mary, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Just want to make sure you can hear me. Looks like you can. Okay, perfect. Okay, so today I just want to talk a little bit about the American Society of Engineering Education, and very much like you heard from Steve, what we care a lot about is sharing those best practices from both education and industry. So really enjoyed your talk, Steve. And within the American Society of Engineering Education, it's basically the national organization where engineering education is the primary focus. And within that association, there are multiple divisions, over 50 divisions, if I remember correctly. And within each of those divisions, there's a focus on a particular area of engineering education that is important to those individuals that are members. And the organization that I'm the current chair of is the SEED division, which is the Cooperative and Experiential Education Division. And if you'll just move to the next slide. So our division is focused on the integrity of cooperative education, primarily with academia and industry. So we look to promote cooperative education, improve services to employers. We also work within engineering technology and what that looks like with business and industry at both the national and the international level. So we also emphasize professional standards and accreditation of cooperative education programs. And over the last few years, we've actually been working on expanding our vision of what experiential education looks like, engaged education, hands-on education, to include other areas as well. So we also look at service learning programs within engineering, project-based learning, which has multiple applications everywhere from the freshman to the PhD level. We talk about capstone projects, of course, cooperative education, which is how we were founded, as well as internships, and now even moving into the area of apprenticeships. So each of those different areas is of importance to us. And so as an organization, we're basically a gathering of thought leaders in this area, very interested in experiential education and how that impacts our students and how that impacts their readiness in terms of going out into the industry. So our goal is to create spaces for conversation, just like this conference, between educators and engineering and those industry representatives about everything from curricular content, workforce skills gaps, industry 4.0, but basically we want to develop a feedback loop from industry into engineering education to address the needs of industry. And we do that through a variety of different ways. And if you can move on to the next slide. One of them is a conference that we host in the spring, and that's called the CIEC conference, which is a conference for industry and education collaboration. And there are 4 separate divisions of the American Society of Engineering Education that meet at this conference. And it truly is a practitioners conference. So we might look at some research, but it's going to be typically how that's applied within the engineering and industry areas. So the divisions that we work with are the College Industry Partnership Division, the Continuing Professional Development Division, of course, the Cooperative and Experiential Education Division, and Engineering Technology Division. So very much those areas where industry and education, engineering education have to come together to meet. And our next conference, and you're of course invited, is in February. And so we would certainly welcome you to come and attend that. And then I also wanted to mention the ASWE conference, which we just concluded a couple weeks ago. And at that conference, it's basically a research-focused conference, but we have a lot of industry representatives there as well, talking about the research that they have done with our engineering education partners. And within that conference, we will typically host a distinguished lecturer, multiple panelists, and technical research sessions. And just to give you an idea of what some of that looked like this year, we had panels on transitioning experiential education learning online. So very much focused on COVID and how did educators and industry respond to that. And we did have both industry sessions and education sessions on that. So just best practices in terms of what that might look like, and giving ideas and lessons learned and all of those things. And then we also did supporting a diverse student body for experiential learning opportunities. So basically looking at issues of diversity and how to create workplaces that support students with diverse backgrounds. And then we had technical sessions on the role of experiential learning at the modern day public engineering institution. with campuses in the California region in terms of what that looks like. And some of those were new cooperative education programs that have recently been developed, and sort of a different approach, a more modern day approach to cooperative education. Experiential learning across and beyond the curriculum, and then international engagement, outreach, and broadening participation in STEM. So some outreach and collaboration between industry and educational institutions to draw in students from the middle school and high school level, and how to approach different ways of developing that talent. So some of that is apprenticeship, some of that is summer camp, some of that is tours. So just lots of different things, but these are the ways that we create those spaces for communication. And then the last thing, if you just want to change the last slide. So I just wanted to give you some action items. If it sounds like something that you would be interested in, of course, we'd love to have additional participation. You can always join the ASCE and the SEED division. There's also other corporate divisions as well. I'm particularly highlighting this area because it's important to me. And I'm guessing it's important to you if you're attending today. But then we also have some lower level participation. We do have a LinkedIn page, and I can pop that into the chat if anyone's interested, where we host town halls. We'll publicize our town halls. We have a town hall coming up on working with students in neurodiversity areas. And then we also have one coming up on apprenticeships in higher education, and the Department of Labor's funding for universities in that area, and how they're working with industry to truly meet skills gaps in those areas. So we have one of those coming up as well. And then we're going to be doing some best practice highlights. So we're just rehashing our LinkedIn page. We're moving it from a group to a page to help it be more active, and to invite employers from outside of our area that may not necessarily be ASWE members to participate and start in those conversations with us. And then, of course, we'd like to invite you to join us for the CIEC conference. And then I'm assuming my contact information will be available if you do want to follow up on that and would be interested. I'm happy to share more information on how to participate in that. And that's all I have. Thank you so much for letting me talk today.
Mary, if I can jump in, back up a couple slides, if you would, to the CEE or to the CIEC conference slide, please. Two things. One, we have and will continue to sponsor an individual membership for our corporate partners that decide they want to become involved in CEED, and for a year, give you a chance to see how this works if you elect to join us at the CIEC conference. So if you're interested in that opportunity, reach out to me. And I would point out it is a phenomenal opportunity for our corporate partners to connect with multiple institutions across the country to help facilitate moving your internship and co-op programs forward at a variety of institutions. Particularly helpful if you have multiple sites. Steve, you joined us a couple years ago for CIEC. I think the last one pre-COVID. Worthwhile experience from the corporate side?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, when you have multiple locations, to have individuals coming from colleges and universities that are looking at experiential education, it's a great bridge building opportunity.
Thank you.
We also play golf.
Oh, it is always in a warm climate in the beginning of February. And yes, we provide networking opportunities in heavily subsidized network opportunities on the golf course as well. And as long as you bring some of your own balls, I haven't been able to support as many as Steve loses.
Thank you, Dean Plotkowski and Mary. We appreciate everything you've done, certainly for us with ASW and the university. And at this point, I'd like to pass the floor over to Career Center colleague Chris Babbitt, who will facilitate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Diane. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. If you haven't noticed yet, please drop questions into the chat or the Q&A area, and we can make those live for our panelists to answer. A few notes before we jump to the first question. In the chat, Mary has just put up her contact information in the LinkedIn page, so be sure to check there. There was a question earlier about the slide deck and the presentation here that will be on the website. Assistant Dean Thelenwood has put the information in there too. Even though Dean Plotkowski did answer this first question here, I'd like to address it back to him for a live response. So an attendee asked, understanding that 70% of graduates remain in West Michigan, is that largely because of the location of the co-op employers? Have graduating students been surveyed to understand if there are other reasons? Dean Plotkowski?
So as I indicated in the chat, yes, we actually do, as part of our continuous improvement processes, we survey our alums frequently for feedback on the programs and their effectiveness and that sort of thing. The consistent message that we get back from our alumni is that it's the connections they make in West Michigan while they're pursuing their degree that really convinces them that this is the place they want to build their career. The connection with the university, the connection with an employer through co-op, connection with usually another employer or more through the industry-sponsored projects, and getting to know the community and the quality of life here. And the reference there is only 30 to 40% of our students come from West Michigan, but over 70% of our alums stay here when they finish their education. I should also point out that the 30 to 40% that do come from West Michigan have a pretty big influence on the others, in that college age students is when you tend to meet your life partner. And if 30 to 40% are from here, that doesn't hurt either. But it's really the connecting with the communities that seems to make the big difference for the alums.
Thank you. This question is for Steve Heethuis. Going back to the co-op experience, Steve, how customized are the positions for co-op students, and how much do you consider a student's background before creating the co-op plan for them?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Thank you. As I mentioned, we focus heavily initially on making sure that our co-op students understanding the machining process. Our intent is that they'll get certified in at least one, if not two different pieces of equipment, two different operations. And the benefit to that is it helps them not only know the material or know the process, but then it helps kind of guide the next 2 semesters really from a technical standpoint as to the type of things they're interested in, right? If that particular process has some robotic applications in it, or vision pieces, or maybe it's their second project could be an ancillary piece of equipment design and build. It starts to get fleshed out, and maybe a good example is our current returning co-op this fall. Madison has excellent background, prior experience. She came in, the first rotation was during May of 2020, which was congratulations to her for sticking it through, obviously in a very atypical experience. She had manufacturing background, so we actually adjusted our plan to leverage that skill set and knowledge and help her do some product coordinating and guidance for us. In the middle of the pandemic, we were shifting demand frequently as customers were either operating or stopping. But this third rotation, we have a project based on the first 2 where she's really started to flourish and expressed interest, where she's going to be designing some offsetting automation, and it's going to be right in a wheelhouse that I think from a problem solving and project standpoint really will fit her. And so we do a blend. We look at the different business need, and then what are the skill sets coming in, and try to make sure that they align so that the student really has a robust third experience.
Steve, you might want to mention that Madison is a non-traditional student, and the opportunities probably connected you with somebody you might not have connected with otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. And and I think that's the significance of the relationship that we've developed. The scholarship program led us to this, to Madison, who is an outstanding future engineer. And as you mentioned, the non-traditional student that she was, because the scholarship was provided to her, it helped her get on the track that she desired to be able to complete her education in the time period she was interested in. So they worked in tandem to really find a successful recipe. I think that's a great point.
Thank you, Steve. The next question is for Mary. Mary, I know you touched on this, but maybe go into a little more detail for our audience members who really want to get involved in ASEE, CEED. What are the requirements for joining, and how would they go about attending that conference that's coming up in February? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a couple different questions, but so the ASEE membership is directly off of the ASEE website, which I can pop that into the chat link as well. And there's of course a membership fee, but the division fee I think is like $10 or something like that. But you can attend the CIEC conference without being a member, which is just another way to get involved. So I can, let's see, I can provide actually, if anyone's interested in attending that conference, I can make sure that you get information about that through our listserv, and I can send that out. We don't currently have the registration available, but it will be available shortly. But I can provide the link to the website where the registration form will be, as well as the information about ASEE.
So Mary, just email their interest to you.
Certainly.
And if you're interested in golf, we know who the coordinator is for that. Make sure you mention that as well.
Thank you both. Steve, you mentioned a piece about student feedback. How do you incorporate that into developing future co-op plans and programs for students?
Yeah, we do a couple of things. There's the informal interaction, of course, and then the more significant is at the end of the semester, we align for the students to give a presentation, and we really want them to answer 3 questions. First of all, what did you contribute, right? What was it that you worked on? Second of all, what was the value that the organization received, right? Try and put that in perspective. And then third, how does it align with your educational interests and future interests? So we asked them to provide that back to our executive leadership at that end of semester piece, in a more formalized and direct way. And interestingly enough, when we do our scholarship application as well, we generally include those students as a presentation component to our future scholarship, potential recipients. And so they get a refining process to talk about, what they want to do, beyond their co-op with our organization. So the informal piece is, throughout. We have a review that we generally do with them about 2/3 of the way through, but then that formalized piece, I think, really gives them a platform to share their perspective.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. I don't see any further questions in the chat or Q&A. I'll give it 1 extra second if somebody in the audience has one. If not, we can move on to the next slide. I don't see any questions coming in. And this is just a reminder of what Steve had mentioned earlier about the Manufacturing Leadership Summit coming up on September 23rd, which will be hosted on Grand Valley's downtown campus at the Eberhard Center. Again, these slides will be available to you on the website, so you can click on that link later, register and plan to attend. So please hope to see you there. I think we can move on to our final slide here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. At this time, I have the distinct honor of announcing the 2021 Co-op Awards. Due to the online format, I'll only be announcing the recipient names and awards. Without further ado, the Co-op Award recipients are as follows. Co-op Student of the Year, Ms. Abigail Hendrick, 2021 Computer Engineering major and BSc candidate who is employed with Gentex. Congratulations, Abigail. Co-op Faculty Advisor of the Year, Dr. Sanjavan Manoharan, Assistant Professor of Mechanical Engineering, second-time award recipient. Congratulations, Sanjavan. Co-op Supervisor of the Year, Mr. Andy De Rosia, Test Engineering Manager from L3 Harris. Andy was nominated by 2021 Computer Engineering Senior Mr. Richard Kirchlau. Thank you, Richard, for your support in this nomination, and congratulations to Andy. Co-op Employer of the Year, DornerWorks. DornerWorks has had a long-standing history of hiring within GVSU's network and is very supportive in multiple collaborative efforts. Congratulations to everyone at DornerWorks. We've loved working with all of you and the students there, and we would really like to extend that thank you and congratulations again to DornerWorks for everything that they've done. That concludes the announcements of the Co-op Awards. Please be sure to check out the video coverage of all the award recipients that will be posted on our social media sites. And thank you so much to all the wonderful panelists and the guests that have been joining us today. In closing, we'd like to thank you for your ongoing support and look forward to working with everyone in the future. Enjoy the remainder of the conference.